Hello.
What we love.
We are live. Happy Friday, everyone. We are back, actually. We were gone for Julie's gone.
Yes. It was me.
But we are back and we are both happy to be here on episode 16 of the Evolve Woman podcast. This, of course, has been a very eventful week. Lots been going on, lots of debates and distortions. So we are here though to shine the light.
Yes. Have you seen it? Have you seen the light where it's pointed? We will show you. We shall show you.
We're here to shine the light on all the distortions that we are seeing in leadership, which is actually really why we do this show. But when trending events, if you've been under a rock, no pun intended, that's the only way you wouldn't know about this event.
That's good. Took me a hot second.
So that's what we're gonna get into today, just how we are seeing leaders respond to this situation with such lack of consciousness and awareness, which continues then to perpetuate people's state of lack of consciousness and awareness. And we're here for a bigger game, to awaken consciousness, to support you to evolve in your highest state of being. So I want to say this. A lot of people are also saying, oh, this was staged. This was staged. So if just if you're like, maybe what is she talking about? Why is she being so cryptic? We're talking about the slap, but I don't want to give so much attention to that. That's why I'm like not going to the details of that event.
Yeah.
But I'm sure if you just do a Google search, even for that word, you will find it. But there are people who are saying, oh, this was staged, this was planned, and it's the game makers playing their games again. That may be true. We don't know. I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. What I care about is how then this game contributes to the lack of consciousness, the lack of awareness that keeps people sleeping and in their victim state. So game or not, we're here to shed the light.
Yeah, I actually love that, because people will be like, they'll focus on the fact like, but what if it could not be real? And it's like, it still doesn't negate the fact that leaders in consciousness have come out to voice their opinions about something that is like so rooted in the victim, in blame, in just these very unconscious principles that clearly they're running by and teaching on,
Mm-hmm.
which is not furthering the consciousness of the world at all.
No, not at all. And creating what I see is not only the response, but I see the lengths that people go through to make connections that I'm like, what? How did you get that from this? And I'm specifically talking with things that I see come up within the Black community, and I'm like, why? How is it that people don't see the bigger implications here for a Black community? Like, there's so much to unpack regarding this on so many different levels. But when someone starts to try to make this a race thing, or like, what if it was, there were other people, like, what was it they were saying, Jules? Like, if it was,
what if it was Tom Hanks's wife with, I took my sheet away,
alopecia. And so I guess the first thing we can look at is was this really an aim at making fun of someone's medical condition?
Right. Yeah, I mean, from the context of it, you know, and we can look at backstories, right? Like people can look at backstories. I later learned that Chris Rock was part of a documentary about Black people's hair. Like he made a documentary about it. And so, you know, I don't, like, we can look at intention, right? Like we can look at intention behind the joke, and we can assume that he's a piece of garbage who would make fun of somebody's medical condition, or we can look at the actual context of the joke. I was thinking about it. It's like 5 words. It was like, Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane, I can't wait. G.I. Jane 2, I can't wait. It was like 10 words that like blew up the world. And nobody is thinking about what G.I. Jane was, who G.I. Jane it was, right? The whole context of that movie and what that movie stood for, right? If you had taken it in context of strong fucking women who break barriers and do the shit that people say that they can't do in power and look fucking gorgeous with or without hair, you can look at it a completely different way instead of that other way of he was making fun of her medical condition.
Yeah. And you said something here, well, the word intent, which is really, really powerful. And I really think it's very easy for people to see things and react, but no one really paused to look at intent. Like, what is the intention behind what you're doing? What is the intention behind what you're saying? And we had a long discussion before going live of, one, what was our intention for getting into this topic today? Because we certainly don't want to be this to be another thing where we just like ruminating over like this happened, it shouldn't have happened, and da 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 da. And there again, I'm going back to what I said in the beginning. The intention is to disrupt some of the distortion of how this is being portrayed. Because at the end of the day, let's say this was true. There was malicious intent here. Let's say this was intentional. You mean to tell me you lack the level of self-awareness, the level of integrity within your being, that someone's word can be that disruptive to you?
10 words.
Like where is the power?
Yeah.
Where is the power really? And it's not to say that people don't, and that's my thing. Like, this is a part of life. People will say shit that pisses you off. People will say shit that hurts you. And it is always your responsibility to learn how to navigate that, to learn how to handle that. Like, you know, to do this, to behave in such a way, and then turn around and say, oh, it's the pressures of life, and you know, people say things about you and they want you to handle it. Like, well, yeah, it's part of being human. Do your work. And it may sound harsh. And I just think about, if we were really intentional about creating a society of people with high level of self-awareness, high level of empowerment within themselves, within their being, high level of emotional mastery, because we are always participators in every experience that we experience, good or bad. Like, everyone here on some level co-sign for this experience, whether they are aware of it or not.
Yep. And the leaders either rose up and saw the power in it, where the power was actually going, which was giving the power away to the words, saying that they had more power, being the victim, right? She needs to be protected, protect Black women at all costs. Like she needed to be protected from 10 words that Chris Rock, a comedian, said. It's not like some, you know, I was thinking if it would like had been like one of the announcers, you know what I mean? The presenters that said it, like that wasn't a comedian, it would be different. But it's like, no, a comedian said 10 words to you. And everybody's, these huge leaders in consciousness are saying she needed to be protected from these words. Saying she's a victim. She's a victim to these words, and that should have protected her. Good. Get the man up there to protect her. Really? Really?
And you know what gets me about this one is the hashtag and protect Black women. And that makes me look at the low expectations that Black people have of ourselves. And that this isn't a manner that you accept that your man behaves to quote unquote protect you. When the threat really is internal, there was no external threat.
No physical threat.
Yeah.
That might have been different if Chris Rock came to smack Jada. Well,
yes, it might have been different had that been the situation. But it really makes me question, like, what do we expect of ourselves, and what do we expect of our community, that so many people are co-signing this behavior and masking it as some form of protection from what? And like, well, what are we gonna say then when there is a real threat? What are we gonna say if something like this, you are hashtagging this needs to happen, and if it was, you know, a white person and da, when there is a real issue, what are you gonna say? And to me, like, this is like crying wolf, right?
Yeah.
When the big issues, and then you're gonna get mad because nobody's listening to you, because you are taking something so minute and expanding it to something bigger, giving it energy that it doesn't warrant, to continue to perpetuate a cycle of victimhood and continue to perpetuate the very thing that you're claimed to be fighting against.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Like, strong Black woman can't equal Black woman who needs protection from words. Or any woman in general. Like, it's like literally like the consciousness leaders who are coming out and saying protect Black women is literally saying claim your brokenness. Claim your brokenness. Claim the fact that you cannot do it yourself. Claim the fact that you don't have the strength within you. That is what is being said right now. And that we as a collective are more powerful or individuals to save somebody than they are to save themselves. And that is not high consciousness.
No, it's not. It's like, I'm like hearing you again. It's like, you know, like, this is like to claim the fact that words, right? That you're so broken that you can't handle words. And I want to be clear, this is not an attack on Jada. This is not an attack on her condition. But there's something here for all of us to see. Again, this is why we are having this conversation. And I was saying to Jules earlier before we went live, that people are just, when we hear certain medical terms and diagnoses, And, as someone who's been like in mind body healing for like pretty much all my freaking life, the majority of the conventional medical community, they don't really talk about this, but like the role that our emotional and spiritual well-being and our consciousness play in our physical condition. And I was saying to Jules, like, isn't it interesting? An autoimmune condition is a condition where your body attacks itself. Like people say autoimmune, but I don't think people really pause to really grasp what that really means. It is one where there's an internal fight. Your body is fighting itself. To me, that says a lot about what's going on in the person's world. And that is where there is room for inquiry for that person. And like many people, I did not know, like a lot of people did not know that this woman had this condition. Like many people found out after the event. And what I find interesting is she's not someone I follow. Like I didn't even watch the Oscars. I haven't watched any of these shows for so long. But I've seen, so you see the person, they present as strong, as powerful, right? Because I've seen videos of her like with things on her hair and blah, blah, blah. I didn't know what that was about. I thought like she was at a point in her life where she wanted to be free and that's what she did. So it's very interesting to see the person who's being portrayed, who we think, right? We think we know what's going on when someone shows up and they're like, yeah, I'm strong and I'm sexy and I'm loving myself and, for the gram.
Yeah.
And then I'm sorry, this really shows what's really going on behind the scene. What's really going on behind the scene with this person. And I do wish, that they get the support they require.
Yeah.
To move through this experience.
Yeah, I mean that's the interesting thing to me too, is, and my immediate thought when I saw it was like, wow, that's some woundedness that just came from, on his end, and of course from her end too, right? Right? Like me and my husband were just talking about like after the fact, like Jada's fucking hot, like she's beautiful, like hair, no hair, and I was like, didn't she always have no hair? Like I was like, I just always thought she was like gorgeous, and to see those reactions of like deep hurt that's happening under the surface, that's not being addressed, that's, they talk about it, right? She's even talked about the condition, but clearly she's operating, like where is she actually operating from, right? She's running on not good enough, unworthy, these lies of beliefs and believing them.
Yeah.
And so is he in his own way, right? That he needs to protect, or whatever his consciousness was, to attack.
It's like there's a set of agreed definitions that they are operating from.
Yeah.
But they're just definitions. It's not truth.
Right.
And it's like when you put on this front that you have to keep it together. And so I want to bring it back. I want to bring it back to the people. Like, what does that mean for you watching? What does that mean? Yeah, what does that mean for the general people watching? Like, what can you learn from this? And this is why I was so bothered by seeing leaders speak about this from that perspective of like somebody needed saving, that this was the right course of action. And if you are a leader in consciousness and you are teaching people that that's what you say, your message is you're teaching people that they're powerful, that they're sovereign, they can create their reality, or that they are always creating their reality, how is there room?
It is like the biggest disconnect I have ever heard. I mean, in a long ass time. You are powerful. You create your reality. Now go be saved. Like, what? If you look at it and you've done any of this work, it makes absolutely no sense. There is no connecting the dots. There's no correlation. The only awareness is, okay, from those leaders, where is that coming from within you? Why do you believe? What is a victim in you? Especially, I will say, in this scenario between men and women, or maybe not men and women, but in relationships, right? In that dynamic, like there's probably some deep shit to be looked at in those leaders' worlds, because in a world where you believe that a man should stand up and protect you against somebody else's words, how are you standing in your sovereignty? You're not.
Yeah.
You're not. If you're operating, if that belief is running under the surface.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, like you said, it's just such a disconnect. It's such a disconnect. And this is where, I'm like, oh man, this work is so nuanced.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean when you're in your sovereignty and your power, you don't get hurt. It doesn't mean you don't get triggered. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is when you have enough awareness to rise to the occasion and take responsibility for how you respond to that trigger.
Right.
And not going to reaction, because all of that was just reaction, unconscious reaction.
Yeah. Well,
and bring it.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, bring it back to you, right? Bring it
Right.
back to you, to your day-to-day lives. How much, number one, are you attacking yourself on the daily, on the regular, and you give yourself a free pass for that, but yet you want to control other people's words around you. You want to control other people's behaviors around you.
Yeah.
Like, where is the power? How much are you reacting to the external world? How powerful are you really when someone's words can completely derail you?
Right. And right. And like you said, like, it doesn't mean you're not triggered. It doesn't mean they don't derail you for, a half an hour or yeah, like 30 seconds. You're like, what the fuck? But then you come back. You're like, wait a second, why? What is this? Right? Why? What am I believing right now about it? And that's the thing about, like, that's why we are talking about the leadership, because yeah, Jada and Will are, in Hollywood and they're like personas and they've got a talk show, but like they are not proclaimed consciousness leaders. And what transpired there and what these leaders, so-called leaders, are saying is the same energy, the same victim energy that is being portrayed. Like, it's one thing. So like you said before, like, we all in some way orchestrated this, right? To see this event play out. And now look at it. Like, what is your reaction to it? Look at why. Or not even why, but like, look at what you're operating from. What are you believing to believe that women need to be protected by their man from words?
Yeah. And it's like, we can take it even beyond, like, because it's on the surface. Yeah, it looks like, oh, you need to be protected from words, but like, there's so much more than that.
Yeah.
going on, right? There's so much more than
Powerlessness.
that going on, like that level of powerlessness. But it's like I wrote a post, I don't know, a couple of days ago. It's about coming to the place of when you own who you are, you become less triggered.
Right.
When you do the work, when you make the commitment that I want to be the most sovereign that I can be, I want to be the most empowered that I can be. Not only do you become less triggered, but you see the triggers as a gift. There's an opportunity to be like, oh, ouch, that's dumb. Work for me to do.
Yeah.
Like, are you embracing your experiences in that way?
Yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate way to move through life in power, is to look at all the experiences and decide the way you're going to look at them, not the way that your unconscious beliefs are processing them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That shit keeps you in a loop for life. And you'll see it when you're 20, and you'll see it when you're 40, and you'll see it when you're 85.
Mm-hmm. So if you're someone who's been watching these leaders and you're co-signing that story, you might want to look at that.
Yeah.
You might want to look at, because people will lead from their own distortion. That's why I make sure that I am intentional about how I show up. I am intentional about doing my work, because I don't want to lead people through my own distortions. When I have my things, because a lot, and you know why? Because I'm committed to my highest evolution. I'm committed to to living in my highest state of sovereignty. So I'm always doing that. I'm always calling myself up to that. And I can see, because I've chosen to cultivate that level of self-awareness, I can see when I'm leading someone, facilitating someone, and I can see my own bullshit come up. And I can be aware to still focus on them, to not project my own shit onto them, because that's not leadership. So many people lead from their wounds, from their own perceptions of their own distortions. And we don't move humanity forward when we do that.
Yeah, there's a pause that needs to happen. Like, you have to pause. Are you in reaction right now? And really zoning in on that. Oh, I'm in reaction right now. I'm not going to go blast shit all over the internet right now, because I haven't processed it myself and looked at, okay, I know that that's off, right? Like, even when I saw it, I had my own reaction, I was like, like it within me. And I was like, okay, like, let me process this and like see what this is and what I'm believing right now, so that I can come to what is the actual truth that I want to portray, instead of, oh, like processing it all. Bleh. It's like, no, you get to be intentional, and yeah, intentional is the best word, about how you approach any trigger in your life, whether it's happening in Hollywood or in your backyard, or all just internal.
Well, it's always all internal, isn't it?
Well, right. Yes. It's all processed internally. I mean, I meant like, sometimes you have a thought that triggers the fuck out of you, versus like your neighbors being an asshole, or somebody slapping somebody on television, like, what is that internal thing happening for you? Processing that shit first.
Yeah. And to come to that pause, you need self-awareness. You need that. That's why I'm like, I'm so committed to that, to being
Yes.
so aware of myself, of my bullshit, of, yeah.
You don't move forward if you aren't absolutely committed to see with non-judgment, right? Because, all right, well, we can go a whole nother topic on what being self-aware consciously actually means, right? People are very self-aware and, beat the shit out of themselves all the time.
Right.
But yeah, taking that pause and noticing that commitment is fucking powerful.
Yeah. Choosing that commitment. And I think this is a good way, a good place for us to pause here today, and we're inviting you to do some inquiry. I mean, it's the end of the week. I intend that we move forward with this behind us, with deeper commitment to self-awareness. Like, I intend that even if you are listening to these people, because for me, it was like, oh my God, it surprised me. I did have a moment of pause, of questioning if I'm missing something. How come I'm not seeing, like, these are people that I follow and that I, receive support from, and I'm usually, I've felt like they've been right on about, things that they say. So it did create a moment where I was like, what are they seeing that I'm not seeing? Yeah. But that was the wrong question. It's like, no, what do I see that they don't see?
Yeah. And what do I know? What do I know that they do not know right now in this moment?
Right. What am I aware of that they're not aware of?
Right. And owning the shit out of that.
Yeah.
And being like, no, I see the distortion there and I can operate without that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So take that, especially if you're somebody who, is awakening in consciousness and is speaking about it out into the world. Like, make sure that you are paused and understanding where you are coming from and seeing all the facets of it, and talk to somebody about it if you need to. Send us a message to say, but whatever, like, really, like, owning that you probably do know, right? Stop looking.
Not probably.
No, you definitely know. Yes, exactly. And stop looking, right, for confirmation all around you.
Yeah. I would say the final note is to own your awareness.
Ooh, I like that. Sink into it.
Mm-hmm. All right, all right, all right.
Thanks for joining us. We shall return next week. Have a fabulous weekend.
Yes. Till next time. Be aware.